Welcome, dear listeners, to the Speak in Flow podcast. I'm so glad you're here today. Today, we're going to dive into empowering leaders, female leaders, and even more specifically, Asian leaders. But all of this goes to all leaders. But we just want to empower you to take steps of courage, even when things are scary, unknown. And I have an amazing leader to have this wonderful conversation with. Her name is Lina La. She's program manager at the Palo Alto University. Hi, Lina.
Hi, Melinda. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so glad to be.
I Me too. I'm excited. We met at some conferences and Ascend conference specifically, which is known to empower Asian leaders. And so I'm really glad that you're here. You're doing some amazing things at the University of Palo Alto. So can you share with the audience what some of those things are?
Yes. So at Palo Alto University, I'm program manager for the
Program.
counseling department. So we train the next generation of mental health counselors and clinicians. And one of the big things I'm doing there is trying to incorporate more communication flow and strategies into my work. In universities, and I'm sure in many other workplaces, you have different departments, but they don't talk to each other. Why is
Mm,
that? We're all part of one organization, but it's so hard to just talk to someone from another department. So we're pretty much in all these silos within the same organization. And I found that we're missing out on a lot of important information by being in these silos where we
yes.
don't understand each other. We don't know what each other is doing, but everything integrates in an organization. You really need to know what other people, what other departments are doing in order
Mhm.
to not just be informed, but to do your best work. So I have an example. I found out that I wasn't getting a lot of the newsletters that I was previously getting. These
Uh-huh.
newsletters are sent to students from time to time. And I found out that, hey, why am I not getting them anymore for the last few months? And it turns out that staff members were not getting these messagings anymore. And that is because someone decided that it's not useful for staff to know what's being sent us as students, which is doing us a disservice because if I'm not knowing what is being sent to my students, I can't tell if they're getting the right messaging or the right picture or the full information. And I'm not getting the full information. So this whole lack of communication, or in this sense, it's a disbursement of information, is making me realize there's a gap in my workflow. Like if I don't know what my students are receiving, how could I be informed to do my work? Or maybe I'm sending another repeat message that students are getting and they're being
Mhm.
inundated with so many
Mhm.
messages that they
Mhm.
probably don't read it. So that's a huge piece that I'm trying to connect and reform in my department and outside my department is just working with these different department managers and program managers to try to improve our communications to students because that's really what we're doing here in my work, and that's to serve students the best we can. And one big thing is to improve communications.
Kudos for you to do that. I mean, obviously, someone didn't think that communication is important, so they cut you off. And
Mhm.
then for you to take that leadership skill to say, hey, no, this is so important. This is what's going to help our students when we have a cohesive team in the department and communicate effectively and to take on that project. That's huge. That's a huge undertaking.
Thank you. And communication, I really value because there's just so much under it, right?
Right.
Many people might think communication is just speaking or just writing words in an email, but really, I take a lot of heart and consideration into it. I
Hmm.
really value what tone I'm setting in my
Right.
messages,
Hmm.
or if via Zoom or in person, I'm really mindful of my body language and my
Right.
gestures and even the volume of how I'm
Yep.
speaking to someone. I
Yeah.
take all that into consideration because it really sets the mood, I guess, for how you want your
Hmm.
message to come across.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I really envy some people who can really just type a message or type an email and just shoot it out really quickly.
Mm.
For me, maybe that's why my workflow tends to be a little longer than others, but I really look into like, am I using the right word? Um, does this word convey a positive connotation or a negative
Mhm.
one?
Mhm.
Um, you see the background like ESL teacher language in me from my previous
Mhm.
experience come out when I
Mhm.
do write these messages. Um, but yes, I really take a lot of care in drafting my messages to
Mhm.
others.
Mhm.
And one thing I've been shifting to in my communications with email is using different tools to help me make my messaging more engaging.
Oh, okay.
So an example I have is I recently started using MailChimp
Mhm.
and Canva to draft these beautiful email messagings because in my role, I have to send out almost every quarter long messages to my students
Mhm.
with a lot of information. So it could be about registration, it could be about book lists, it could be about happenings within our department or
Mhm.
events. And that could get pretty long. If someone was reading it and receiving it and just a whole list of words, that's not very engaging, right? I'm not sure if they're even gonna read the whole thing.
Right.
So what I've been using is MailChimp because
Yeah.
I work with graduate students. A lot of them are the younger population. They love emojis. They love graphics. They love short videos and memes. So I've been trying to input that into my messagings. And I could see, on MailChimp, you could see that engagement increases. You could see how many people
Mhm.
actually read through it and how many people click
Mhm.
through it. So that's also been very helpful for me to use the data and to help to improve my communications. And also, I can't take all the credit for this. I learned this from someone else from another department in my university.
Okay.
Her role is she's director of communications. So this is her jam.
Right.
And if
Right.
I hadn't reached out or if I hadn't already been working with her on some other event, I wouldn't have known that. And to
Mhm.
think like, wow, I missed out on this whole other aspect to help me improve my communication. Like how sad it would have been if I just kept working in my own little
One
silo,
little
my own
silo.
little
Yeah.
department and not care about anyone else. I just think about all the missed opportunities that I'm also missing out on, like if I'm not working with other people from other various
Yeah.
departments.
Good for you to like know how communication to cater to your audience is very entrepreneurial. Like you're taking a new innovation, something new, integrating it to reach your audience in a more engaging way. And so that is amazing and wonderful. It's such a leadership skill and thinking about everything that you're doing, I know that it didn't come out of, just you were born with this leadership skill. Tell us about your story, the past, like, when you're growing up, what that was like for you.
Yeah, sure. I don't know anyone who was born with a leadership skill, but kudos to them
That's
if
cool.
they
I
were,
know. I
because
wish I had
yeah,
it.
I'm trying to develop that myself,
Yeah,
and it's been a long
yeah,
journey. But
yeah.
starting from my childhood, I grew up in an immigrant family.
Mm,
My parents immigrated from Vietnam. They were
okay.
refugees. So
Uh-huh.
that really had a big impact on how I
Yeah,
was raised.
yeah,
And I remember them always telling me to don't rock the boat, keep
yeah.
quiet, just focus on your work hard, don't cause trouble, don't speak up, don't cause noise, be quiet.
Was it more your mom, your dad, or
It
both?
was for my mom. My
Yeah,
mom,
okay.
yeah.
Interesting, right? Because the moms were
My
she was taught
mother
that.
was stereotype, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's correct. So that really had an impact on me. And growing up, I was like that, right? I just stayed quiet. I just put my head down, did my work, worked hard. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I realized that doing that, especially in a Western society that we live in, it really hindered me from a lot of opportunities, missed promotions because I'm not seen
Mm-hmm.
as a leader, right? I'm just seen as a common worker. And what I realize also is I don't want to keep on perpetuating that stereotype that
Mm-hmm.
Asians are seen as meek, they're submissive, Asian women specifically, and just shy. Like, why do we have to be that way? I don't want to be that way. Like, I want to share my story. I want to speak out. I don't want to have any hesitation to speak what's really in my heart.
Right.
Because I feel like what a lot of um, people who grew up in Asian families, they're afraid, right? They're like, if I say
Mm,
this, I'm gonna hurt the other people's feelings, or if I say this, it's gonna cause a lot of trouble, and I don't want to do that, right?
mhm.
But I think in today's world, like, you have to do that in order to make any change, in
Yep.
order to not miss out on those opportunities, and in order for other people to really see the strength in you. I don't want
Right.
that
I
to be
mean,
missed. Mhm.
I resonate with that so much because I had so many, yeah, there was a new hire that got promoted before me. I was in the company already 10 years. And he got promoted, and I knew he was making the right connections. And this also brings me to my point of, like you said, you don't wanna miss opportunities, you wanna be seen as that leader. People are going to see you as, even though you're not weak, but they might see you as just not a leader. I mean, this is a great example, and I have to say this right now, whatever, political fence you're on, but, like, Kamala Harris, I was so disappointed when she was during her vice presidency, not she was not in the limelight. She didn't really say anything, and so now people are like, "Who are you? Who are," and then she's
Mhm.
hiding behind, like, now she has to, like, redo her reputation, try to separate herself from Biden, and, it's just very interesting now, and then now I think that it was a little bit challenging for her to be in the spotlight. She had to actually adjust really quickly, and she did a pretty good job, but, I mean, what I'm saying is that she just didn't do that during her vice presidency for whatever reason. There's probably a
Mhm.
reason, but it just showed that it didn't really show her as a leader. She could have already been seen as such to the
Correct.
American people
Mhm.
for 4 years.
Yes, you're
And
right.
so that's what happens when we're in corporate and we don't speak up, we don't say, we think that our work is enough.
Mhm.
No, we think our work shows it. No, you really got to promote it. You got to say it over and over and over again because
Mm.
people are not going to hear. People don't remember. People, so we think, oh, we say it once, they know. No. Yeah.
And
So,
Melinda, I truly resonate with that right now as
yeah.
well, because that was my mindset in the past, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let my work show for itself
Yeah.
because I
Right.
work so hard, did
Exactly.
all
I
these
totally
stuff, right? Like, it's gonna speak for itself, but it
Yeah.
really does. Like, yes,
No.
kudos, you did all this work, that's great, but did anyone know? Did anyone hear
Right.
that? Did anyone see
Right.
that? So
No.
yes, self-promotion is a big thing. Like, you have to
Thing.
say it loud and proud. Tell everyone what you did, even if it was something
Yes.
minor. You really have to be consistent and just keep putting your good work out there by saying,
Yeah.
by communicating it.
And how do you deal with the loud and proud? Because that's so not me. I mean, I know it's hard. It was hard. Like, what do you think about that?
Definitely a big mindset shift, right?
Yes.
You can't just rely on someone else to do that for you. You
Yeah.
have to do it yourself. And one acronym I really learned early on in my career is QTIP.
Oh, okay.
It stands for quit taking it personally. And I think
Uh-huh.
that has really helped in me shifting my mindset to be more loud and proud rather than like meek and shy. And that's because before I would, coming from an Eastern family society, it's more collective rather than individualistic. I think if
Mhm.
I grew up in a more individualistic family, I would be more
Mhm.
loud and proud, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm like
Mhm.
focused on me, what my needs are, what my wants
Mhm.
are. But in a collectivist society, you're more focused on others and how other
Mhm.
people feel. So for the QTIP acronym, if I were to take things personally, I think that would have a huge effect on me emotionally and mentally, simply
Mhm.
because I'm always going to be worried, like, oh my God, am
Mhm.
I going to hurt their feelings? How are they going to feel about this? And totally ignore what I'm feeling, right? Because I'm
Right.
second to them. And I'm trying to shift this mindset into this loud and proud mindset where it's like, yes, I do care about other feelings, other people's feelings, but what about mine?
Right.
I don't want to seem selfish about it, but really, you kind of have to be. Put
Yeah.
yourself first, right? What
Yeah.
are you doing? What are you proud of? And we also talked about this earlier. You just have to put yourself out there. Be bold, be
Yeah.
brave. And
Yeah.
that way you're not missing out on these opportunities. And
Right.
other
Right.
people will see that and they will follow suit, kind of leading by
You're
example
you're
that
you're
way.
walking the talk, because I
Yes,
know that you coming on to here was not, something that you're like, "Okay, I'm not sure," but you're doing it. You're here loud and proud, and there's moments where have there been moments where you just had a light bulb where, "I'm just gonna do this?" I you
yeah.
know Yeah, what was that?
Every day, maybe.
Good. Just like I'm gonna get on this podcast.
Yes.
Even though it's scary, like what? I'm gonna just do it and
Yes.
continuing to be a bigger, expanded version of yourself.
Correct, correct. One thing I'm trying to really achieve every day is to not let my own insecurities or not let imposter syndrome get in the way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
doing these things.
Yeah.
One quote I heard is, if you're gonna just do it scared. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I just follow that. Just do it scared. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you
Yeah.
feel like ill prepared or you feel like you're not worthy of it.
Hmm.
Just do it scared and see what happens. And I had this moment when you mentioned not part of Ascend. I'm part of the Ascend GGU chapter, going to get
Yeah.
university student chapter. And when they put out a call out looking for officers for the
Uh-huh.
Ascend chapter, looking at my workload and my school load, I decided,
Right.
okay, I can probably take a secretary role. I can take notes at meetings. I can do that. I have time for that. And the former president said, no, Lina, you're going to be the president. And I think it's because no one else signed up to be president. But I decided, you know what? This is an opportunity. This is a calling. Let's do it. So I signed up to be the president. And one of the events that's usually put on in the beginning of the academic year is something called a kickoff event. And I'm no like event planner. I wasn't given a script to that or what things I should do in terms of holding a kickoff event. And during this event, I was called upon to the stage to deliver a speech, introduce us and introduce yourself. And I totally wasn't ready for that. For me, in my mind, for some reason, I thought a kickoff event, okay, it's just going to be like a gathering. There's
Yeah.
gonna be food, there's gonna be people mingling and talking, that's it. But they're like, no, you gotta go on stage, you gotta talk about Ascend
Wow.
and promote it. So I totally wasn't ready for that. But I sucked it up and said, you know what? I'm the president of Ascend GGU. This is something I have to do. And I stepped up and did it. It's now a blur now looking back, but I introduce myself, I introduce Ascend, I told people why they should join, develop their leadership skills, empowering Asian business people in the workplace, supporting each other, building that network. I think that's all I said. But in the end, I was able to deliver it. I'm not sure how I did, but I got through it scared. And in the end, it worked out well because
Hmm.
everyone kept saying, like, you did a great job. I love your messaging. You were confident up there. Woo. But in the end, like I was really proud of myself. I was like, I did that. I wasn't prepared, but I stepped up and I did that. And that kind of opened more doors for me, not just within
Hmm.
GGU, but it
Hmm.
did another number in me in terms of realizing that this is something I could do, that I could see
Yes.
myself as a leader, that other people see me as a leader.
Mm.
So that kind of shifted me into a mindset of, yes, just do it scared,
Mhm. Mhm.
try to show confidence, even if you're not confident. It's all about communicating your messaging, your worth, your confidence to other people. And that's kind of what
Mhm.
led me to also join this podcast and to be more of an inspiration to others who are feeling what I previously felt, which was scared or
Mm.
shy or not
Mhm.
worthy. Um, so I want to be an inspiration to them and also improve myself along the way.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I think your story resonates, and it's so amazing that you've been taking these the big steps to big bold steps, even though you're scared. And earlier, you and I, before we got on this, you told me a little secret about if you're scared, you're about to take a big leap of faith. You're going to do something that is out of your comfort zone. And if you're feeling all these butterflies, right? You
Yes.
taught me through your GGU program, you taught me take the butterflies, put them into a ball, no, acknowledge them, they're there, because sometimes people will ignore them, and when you ignore them, they actually manifest itself in this on the stage or somewhere in the conversation. So you want to just take the time to say, hey, I know the butterflies are there, let's put them in a ball and then set them free, like send
Mhm.
them off. Thanks for coming.
Correct.
So I
Yes.
really enjoyed that. And but despite you got up on stage and you spoke at the Ascend conference, and you did a great job. Didn't wasn't planned, so kudos for you. And you got the results, you got opportunities, and you more importantly, you got knowing that you can do it. You had that mindset shift that I can do this. I could take big bold steps and be that leader.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for inspiring us to share that message and to connect with it, because many I resonate with it. Like a lot of things, experiences you had, I feel like I had the similar things. So so it's really great that we're on this journey together, raising other women, raising other leaders.
Yes. Mhm.
So let's I'd like to end. Thank you so much for all your inspiration. I'd like to end with the one question that I ask all my guests. What is that one leadership golden takeaway that you want people to remember?
Yes. So my one leadership golden takeaway is actually something I learned in my personal leadership class that I took at GGU. And that is to not only look outward, but look inward to yourself
Mm,
in whatever you do. But we're going to apply it this case in terms of leadership. A lot of people think that, oh, being a leader is just making these big speeches, it's just
mhm,
orating, it's just leading a team. And that's a lot of outward facing actions, but we don't take the time to also look inward and
mhm,
reflect on ourselves,
mhm,
reflect on what we did, reflect on what kind of leader we want to be.
mm,
And all more so importantly, like reflecting on what your purpose, what your values
mm,
are, what your strengths and talents are.
mhm,
Because if we don't acknowledge that, as you mentioned, if you don't say
mhm.
it, if you don't pinpoint it, how can you expect other people to know what that is?
Right, right,
And
right.
that goes away with, if you're not taking the time to name it, as we mentioned
Mhm,
before, if you don't take the time to name it, other people aren't going to have the ability to name it as well. And you really need to
mhm.
share that with people. Be loud and
Yeah,
proud about
right,
who you are, be authentic
right,
about who you are, and not
right,
being shy to share that with the world. But you have to name it
right.
first.
Totally, because I think like with leaders, if you're not clear about your own values, your own unique strengths, unique purpose, then we can get easily knocked over with
Hmm.
all of the technology, information, and people swaying you, convincing you, authority figures, right? You can easily get swayed. So it's like, and then you get your leadership gets weighted and gets jaded and gets muffled. And so like having, like you said, claim it, I
Hmm.
think is really important. And that way you're guided. You are guiding yourself, and that's
Hmm.
true leadership.
Correct. And to help you name it, you don't have to
Lots of
do a program, MBA program like I did, but there are other big resources out there, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Joining affinity groups like Ascend is one
yeah,
of them, or
right,
looking for mentors, or even
right.
reaching out to you, Melinda, like
Yeah,
to
oh,
help to have people help you, right?
uh-huh,
To
uh-huh,
develop those skills or look towards leaders like you to be an example of what you want to be in the future. So that also
right,
has helped me along my journey.
right, right. Yeah, because it could get really complicated and unclear. So having
Mhm.
somebody to bounce ideas off of.
Correct. Hmm.
And so thank you so much. That was amazing. And thank you so much for your work with the mental health arena and guiding leaders to help more people in this area. I think this is such a huge, critical, important aspect of our lives. And I mean, I was just thinking the other day, how come, you know, I'm still thinking about politics, but how come there's not on the ballot like something around mental health, a
Mm.
mental health crisis that we have in our nation?
Correct.
Is
Hmm.
not talked about at all. like this is something that we really need to put on the ballot or something,
Mm-hmm.
more work around it.
I
But so I
agree.
appreciate what you do.
Mm-hmm. No problem. It's been my pleasure,
Yeah.
Melinda.
Thank you, Lena. It was really fun. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Happy to be here and happy to continue the conversation.
Yes, and thank you, audience, also for being here. I trust that you got your golden takeaways from today and implement them. Take the steps, take the leap of faith toward your big, bold, scary vision for yourself. And until next time, I'll see you on the Speak and Flow podcast. Thanks for joining. Bye. Thanks for joining the conversation today. Are you curious on how you measure up with your ability to speak in flow? Come grab my free self-assessment at https://speakinflow.com/assessment. And I'll see you on the other side.